Hello FlossTube, welcome back to my wee world, the world of expanding stitches. This is a channel about cross stitch, a little bit of quilting and sharing some of my vintage treasures that I find along the way on my travels. Yeah, the last video was on St. Paddy's Day, St. Patrick's Day, as you know if you've seen it. And to anyone that hasn't seen any of my videos before, welcome and thank you for joining me. I was going to film yesterday, but the tree hay fever is still rife, and it'll probably be rife until May, with birch and hazelnut. And I was all stuffed up and groggy and couldn't get my thoughts together, so I thought, oh, I'll try and pop one in today for Easter Monday at least. First of all, happy Easter to you all, and happy spring if you don't celebrate Easter. I hope you're enjoying the holiday, to those of you that have got it off and can enjoy the long weekend with family or without family, depending on your lockdown. I just hope you've had a nice time and that it's been a little bit special for you anyway. And to any people that are unwell at the moment, or in hospital, or undergoing treatment, speedy recovery, good luck with all your medications and treatments, and hopefully you'll be back healthy and happy soon. Right, so notes. Okay, what did I do? It's been a busy few weeks actually. I've done lots of tidying up and sorting out again. I seem to rearrange around so much stuff and think I'm happy with it one way and then move furniture around again. But I finally found some final homes for some furniture pieces I have in my apartment. So I'm quite pleased about that, even though I was moving them at 11 o'clock at night one night that I got it into my head. But so I did that. I brought some paint up from the cellar and did little touches up of paint all over the wall. Luckily it was the same color of white, so that was good. I did some long arm quilting. I'm looking down at my notes here so that I don't keep going off track too much. I did some long arm quilting and finished 2 quilts that are charity quilts that other people had pieced. Friends of mine, and that's for a drive we started into 2020 for the bushfires, and I have a bundle of quilt tops to long arm quilt to get those off. And at this rate, considering there's about 35, there's only 52 weeks in the year, I think it'll be next year we'll be posting them off to Australia, but hey ho. And I'll show those at the end of the video for anyone that's not interested so much in quilting and just really wants to talk about cross stitch and stitching. But if you are interested, I'll show you the beautiful quilt tops that people pieced, and I just long armed and bound. So I'll show you those at the end. I made a sewing machine insert for my flatbed. I've got a sewing machine cabinet that my sewing machine can fit in, and it's got a mechanized lift that you can pop it down into the cabinet, close it up and tuck it to the side, or it can open up with a support on the left side for quilting and a support flap that comes up at the back for quilting, so that if you are sewing on binding or you want to do free motion quilting on your sewing machine, you've got space for it. But when I got it, it wasn't possible to get the custom insert that would fit my machine, the sewing machine that I have. It's relatively a simple one actually. It's a FAF. I looked into getting the lovely shiny custom acrylic ones to fit it. But that was going to be rather expensive and the delays at the moment. So I thought, well, I'll scrap together and make an insert. And I posted a picture of it on Instagram if you want to look. I didn't pull it up to show. It's not that amazingly interesting. But I was really chuffed because I got the plastic coating that I'd put on the wood pieces mirror shiny, so everything glides through really well, even though it took a whole day to do. But I was pleased. It was DIY cutting out, and yeah, I was delighted with that. FFOing, yes, I've got 4 little pieces I did final finishing on, and I'm thrilled how they turned out. I did most of them yesterday with the final finishing. I'd stitched them, oh, I think in December I'd finished stitching them, or last year, and they were sitting around, and I thought, oh, spring, and go and get those out and get those done. So I'll show you those in a second. And I've also been working on some new designs. I've got so many cross-stitch design patterns in my head at the moment, I can't keep up. With what's trundling through my brain. I've also started charting one of the samplers that I showed in a previous video. But it dawned on me at like in the middle of the night last night. I sat up in bed and I was like, oh my gosh, now how could I create that it would be easy for people to do? So I was making notes on my notepad at like 5 in the morning this morning before I managed to fall asleep again. But so exciting times, exciting designs to come, and they'll be on my Etsy shop, Expanding Stitches in Etsy, with my other 3 patterns at the moment. So go and check those out if you're interested, and hope you enjoy them. So for whips, I suppose I'll show first. Whip is probably a better way, apart from Santa's Greatest Gifts that I'm throwing in stitches in, but not enough to show this week, because I want to get that finished by July so that I can FFO it for Christmas in July. But I've actually now understood why people start so many different projects. Now, I tend to do that with quilting. In fairness, I have quilt projects on the go that I'm piecing. Piecing is where you're actually making the patchwork. It's sewing the pieces together. The term in quilting is piecing, is what they term to do. Yeah, what the term is for that. And but I can understand actually why people like new starts, but mainly like having whips, work in progresses, because would be quite nice to actually just pick up something when you're in the mood, and swap over to something else, and it's already set up and ready to go, and you've got your flosses all organized and you've got everything. And I realized I really need to do that because I think I'm more of a monogamous stitcher. And as much as I love stitching on a piece, sometimes you just you think, oh, I'd love to have a small on the go and be able to whip that out quite quickly rather than a longer piece. So I think I'm going to do quite a few new starts this month, and have some other little projects scattered around that I could pick up and go. And I have definitely enough charts and have enough bits and pieces of fabric that I can start things. I'm not so keen, funny enough, on picking the fabrics, and it's not always easy to get the exact fabric over here that is given in the chart. And so you have to kind of plan in advance, like everybody does. But I tend to get the chart, ooh and the designer's lovely work, and then put it away rather than have a stack of it sitting out, although there are stacks of them, a stack of charts that I do have to put in their little folders. But I don't like starting so much, pulling out the flosses and hunting them out and putting the first couple of stitches in and figuring out, am I going to start at the edge or am I going to start in the middle? That bit I don't enjoy as much, funnily. I enjoy choosing the fabrics and pulling out the flosses, but actually, bundling it all together, maybe that's why I've been a bit reluctant with new starts. It takes me a while, but that's going to change. I'm going to change those. So enough of that. Birdsong 1 is what I've been working on by the Prairie Schooler, and that's this chart here. And I'm working on the larger one here. And this is where I am at the moment, and I posted it on Instagram. I got quite a lot done since I last showed you. I had been up here and then moved down, and now I filled in the house and the little birds, and I think the sentiment is beautiful. The bird does not sing because it is an answer, it sings because it has a song. And I changed the colors to more anchor colors or close to, because I wanted to use up the anchor threads in my stash. I have quite a lot of anchor, and I'd rather keep my DMCs for when I'm trying to chart my designs. And this is on 25 count Lugana. I thought it was 28 until I found the packet. It was one of these packets that you just get the pre-cuts. It's a Zweigart Lugana, and I thought it was 28, and of course that's why it's so big. But I do have enough fabric, I've plenty. I've just kept it on the Q-start. Now it looks a bit wobbly, but that's just because I've got it stretched the wrong, you know, it's a bit skew width in the chart. I ended up, it was late at night sewing, I'll just scoot in a wee bit more, and I pulled the wrong floss for here. It should have been more the chocolatey kind of a brown, that's this one. And the coverage isn't the densest, but I like that kind of gappy look. I'm maybe one of the few that doesn't really worry about having the gaps through, because when you take it off the Q-snap anyway, it'll plump up a little bit more, I found. So I quite like that gappy look in between it. And my threads are relatively, I'm doing the sewing method with this part here. My threads are pretty flat. They're not too bad, actually. You get the odd little twist, but I just keep going. But I was late at night or early in the morning, and I pulled the dark brown color instead of actually the more chocolatey color. And then I had it all done, and I was, oh lordy, do I really want to go and unpick all of that? And I said, well, do you know what? I'll wait until the end, until the whole thing's done, and then see if it looks okay. So I tweaked around the little house a little bit. So you can see in the original chart, it's more of a chocolatey kind of a brown. So I've just changed around a little bit, and my blue is a little bit more vibrant than the blue in that chart, but I think it's lovely. It's coming out so cute. And oh yeah, that's actually a good tip. When I do something like the little musical notes, I actually do the back stitch all in sort of with the same threads. So what I've actually done here is, I forgot I was thinking of this when I was stitching it. I'll go up a little closer to you. I'm on a rolly chair that doesn't have brakes, so forgive the seasickness of me moving. But I do a pin stitch to start here. And if anyone isn't sure what a pin stitch is, you can go and check out Nicole Parkman on Facebook, and she shows the proper way, or I'm assuming is the proper way. She's got a lot more experience in cross stitch than I do, on how to do a pin stitch. I do my pin stitch a little bit different in the sense of the way it's done, because I do a sort of a waist knot, and then I cut off the waist knot later. If anyone's interested, I can show you how I do. Just leave a comment down below in the video, and I'll pop up a little tutorial, maybe just or a quick stitch with me, and show you how to do that. But what I do is I do the little pin stitches, especially when you're on light fabric, so that I'm not carrying the threads across. And I'm doing 2 strands here now because it's 25 count, even though some people would even use 3 strands on 25 count. As I said, I thought it was 28. But what I do is I finish as if I'm going to finish off the pin stitch, where you're looping it, putting it back in again, and all the rest of it. But when there's back stitch like that, and I've got 2 strands, then what I do is I separate, I don't cut off the 2 strands. I separate straight away into the 1 strand, because a lot of back stitch is just 1 strand. I rethread the needle with the 1 strand, and then I do the back stitching. And in this case, it was long enough to actually join over to that one. And I can cut off the single thread, the other half of the loop that's here, because it's properly finished off in the pin stitch. And then I just tuck it in at the back of this one and loop it round, or you could even put another leg of a pin stitch in there if you weren't, you know, and it's hidden behind the crosses. And that saves me having to later go back and, in this case, especially since it was the same color thread that was quoted in the chart. It saves me going back and having to rethread a needle with single strand, try to loop it through or fasten it on, etc., to do the back stitch. That way I'm kind of doing it as I'm going along. So that might be a tip. It might be a Rooney tip for anyone, or maybe that's what people do and I just never came across it before. But it's quite a handy wee way if you've got backstitch to do in the same color, or even if it was near enough that you close by to another stitch that you could like let the threads tail until you get to that point and then carry them across behind other stitches and then do that rather than have to rethread. So that's where I am with Birdsong 1, and I'm really pleased. So there's not a, just started the house, so there's only a little bit more. I'm not going to go with the pale blue in that one. I think the color I've picked pops the lettering out a little bit more in the alphabet behind the house, so it'll be quite nice to see how that comes along. So that's my work in progress. Right, scoot back away from the camera again, so too many wrinkles. So that's where I am at the moment. Okay, final FFOs, which are fully finished objects, to those people that don't know the term, though most people do. Excuse me, I just take a swig of coffee here. Oh, my voice will be even more croaky. It always gets croaky when I'm talking on camera. It's not half as croaky in normal times. It's just because I'm still nervous. And this is Lizzie Kate. I just took it out of the packet for you. The little packet came with the little charms and beads when I bought the kit. I bought it at the, I'm going to focus, really cute little, there you go. Yeah, you can, let me put it over there, you can see them. But I probably won't use those. Well, I didn't use them on my finish actually. I thought, no, I might keep them in case I make it again as a gift for someone, or if I pass the stash. But it's Lizzie Kate Summer Smalls number 182. And I did this little one, which is the, now the lighting, it's a bit bright in the afternoon here, so hopefully it's not too washed out, but I did this little one, I did this little one, so that's bees, birds, and berries. I did this one. I will probably do summer as well, but I was just playing around with a scrap of old fabric that I showed in another video. I think it was my first FlossTube, yeah, that I showed that was just a scrap from a charity box or somewhere. I have no idea where it came from. So this was the first little one that I finished. I'll just pop this behind it. And I turned it into a little cushion. I didn't put, it's just polyfill inside. I didn't put, or polyfill, I didn't put cherry stones or walnut shells or anything in them. I just put a bit of polyfill. And that's that finished up. And I stitched it on the sewing machine. I just carefully followed the thread lines down. I'm used to quilting and stitching, so I can stitch to a quarter or an eighth of an inch easily, even a 16th of an inch, just because I've had lots and lots of practice. And I used a little bit of my batik on the back because I love batiks, and I stuffed those in. And then I had a chenille trim. Actually, I've got some from the supplier in lots of different colors, so I'm debating, I got test samples out to see, debating selling those maybe in my Etsy store. It's like a chenille yarn trim that you can just stitch on, and all I did was like whip stitch it in, really, you know, you just loop it over and stitch it in, and then fluff up the little threads. But I'm pretty delighted the way that wee one came out. Oh, she's upside down. I put one little bead on the birdhouse, just a bead that I had. It's not the bead that was in the kit. But yeah, I think it's so sweet. So it's the first tiny little pillow, and I think it's cute. It's not Easter's, but it's kind of coming into spring and summer. So that's this finish. Then the second finish, I posted this one last night on Instagram, and I really think this is cute. I like this, and it's a lovely chart anyway. This is the second one, and that's the way it's, okay, let me just, okay, maybe do it that way, you'll be able to see a little bit better. There you go. So it's bees, and I was really close to the edge on this because I didn't have much fabric, so I literally had to put the seam in right at the edge. But I didn't mind because it's only a little small. I did this, and look, there's even fluff still on it. It's only a little small, and I think it's really cute, so I didn't mind at all. So what I did with this was I put some of the backing, it's batik as well, on the top strip, and some of the yellow on the bottom here. I stitched that on in a straight line on the sewing machine. I could have done it by hand, but it's just as easy for me to do it in the sewing machine. And there's like 1/8 of an inch seam. Well, no, I think there's a 1/4 inch seam on this one, yeah. And then underneath here, there's another little line of the same batik that's on the top. So it's like a double strip and one on the top. And then on the back is the same beautiful batik. I thought just pulled out the colors really pretty. And then what I did was I was rummaging around trying to decide what to put down here. Will I put anything? Will I just leave it? Will I put pom-poms on? I was going to put pom-pom trim around it. And I hunted in my box of trims, and this is a vintage wool trim that I've had. I can show you the back. And I just dot glued it in place just overnight, just to keep it, because it would be moving a lot on the batik. And so I only did a couple of tiny little dots of Elmer's glue just along there, just to keep it in place. And then I appliqued it on in between the little stitches, so you won't be able to see them, but I just looped through by hand and stitched it on, and then just matched up the little threads at the back, and it won't unravel. And then these little buttons, I was hunting. I spent a longer time trying to figure out what I wanted to put on the which buttons to use, or will I use charms, or what will I use? Then I think I did stitching and stuff in the little pillow. And it's amazing how much they take, how much stuffing or wadding or polyfill they take. I mean, cherry stones, walnut crystals, they take a lot as well. But because this fabric is sort of an unknown fabric, I didn't put interfacing on the back or stabilizer. So I didn't want to have cherry stones in case at any point they would discolor the inside of it. I'd already done it, and I thought, no, just fill it with polyfill. It's fine. It's nice and light. And I've plumped it up really well, and I got my corners out pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with those. They came out as good as I could probably get them, I think. So, well, could probably get them a little bit sharper, but I don't want them too pointy either. So these little buttons, and then I decided to go for these little buttons because of the color. They reminded me of honey. And I used some of the floss that I'd pulled up here. It's the same color green because I thought it would pull it down and add a little bit of contrast in there, rather than go with the dark and the goldy color. I thought it would pull in the green a little bit more. And these little buttons are Bakelite buttons. They're actually made of Bakelite, and they're in old buttons that I had, so I just cut a couple of them off the little card. That's the way they came. So God knows how old they are. I have no idea, but I do know they're Bakelite. And then I thought I'd share another tip with you that it dawned on me as I put the needle in first go. And I can also show you that in a little tutorial if you want to do. I can do a pin stitch one, or I can show you how to do that. It's a trick with these little buttons, rather than when you've got the wee pillow all stuffed and pulled, plumped up and filled. rather than be stitching on a button, because when you stitch on clothing, obviously it's going to go through. Now you could do it and you'll get little indentations on the back where you pulls the button the whole way through, because it can be quite tricky in small spaces with the needle. If you're trying to sew the button on and not go through, you're catching and maneuvering it, and even with the curved needle it can be quite tricky. So as I had the first one in, I snipped it off and I went, there's a faster way to do this, especially when it's only decorative and not functional. These do not need to like keep blouses closed or trousers closed or anything like that. So what I did was I took the floss. Now it was fiddly with this button. It's much easier for bigger buttons. And I stitched the X. I did an X on this one because I thought it would look cute with the cross stitch. I stitched the first, so I wrapped the floss. I did single floss so that it lays a little bit flatter than using a double, but you could do it as well. And I can show you a trick if you're interested on how you start off this little button, that you're not worrying about tails and everything else. But I stitched the button, the floss onto the button first and finished it off. And then all I did was I stitched with the same floss, or you could use the same thread you used to disguise your trim, and the coordinating thread, and then just stitched on the little button, catching the threads that were already at the back of the button from where you had looped them. And it's much, much faster. And it's quite fun because you're holding the button and yet you're doing the little cross, or you could also do side to side, you know, top to bottom. You can do buttons across to, if there are 4 buttons, you can do them in 2 little lines if you want to, or you can do the cross. It's quite fun actually when you're putting the floss on the button and yet the button isn't attached to anything, but it works really well and it's much easier than trying to be threading and sewing it on. And that is if you don't want the little indentations where the thread comes through on the back, but that can look really pretty as well. It's just a tip and a trick. So I had done that, and then I was looking for charms, and I have little silver charms and loads and loads of beads and things. And I came across this one, and I thought because there's so much gold, and then with the yellow, it's kind of summery colors, and I was thinking the gold would incline a little bit more to it, to the silver. So sometimes, I don't know where I got this. It could have been just in a department store, or reduced or something. And I remember wearing it a couple of times, but then I wasn't wearing it anymore. It's actually, and I think it's either a bee or a wasp, but it's actually a little brooch. So it's the little brooches with the little clasp and his little, good Lord, what they used to suck the nectar out, his little snout. I'm not sure. I can't think of the proper word, but it sticks out and it's quite sharp. It's as sharp as a needle. And I was thinking, if I grab this little cushion, because that's the bit that hooks into the brooch, you know, the shaft. And I was thinking, if I grab this cushion and move around, I'm going to be stabbing myself all the time. So I thought, oh, I could glue a little bead on the top, and that would protect my fingers, because I'm not taking it off here now. He's staying on for good because it's cute the way it is. So I went into my beads just to find a little small bead that wouldn't take away from hem or take away from the design by Lizzie Kate. And I realized I had this bead which is actually amber, and tiny little hole in the bead. Yeah, it's a little odd, and it was off a necklace, an amber necklace that I broke up to keep the beads because I wasn't really wearing the necklace. It was strands and strands of amber, and I thought, no, I'd rather use them for either sewing onto clothing or for something else. But I thought, so I glued that onto with permanent glue, glued that onto the little shaft, left it sitting there propped up. And I think it's really good. I think it's kind of like he's making honey, or he's nibbling on the honey or whatever, but it kind of just pulled it all together. Let's see if we can get it into focus. There you are. It's a bit better. Yeah, and I just think it's really, really cute. So that was my second FFO of that series. So I'm really pleased about that. And I think it's cute. So that was that one. And then the third one, this one evolved actually. Oh, I should have brought up the little squares, but not to worry. This is the third one in the series. Let me just get this little chart. So, and I made it into a long pillow as well. And I did the same thing. So I've put batik on the top. I'll talk about this in a second. This is patchwork. This is piecing. A little bit of batik on the bottom. The same batik on the back. Except I didn't do a side seam like I had done on these ones. I tend to do a side seam, I prefer. I thought I'd try with a back seam because I thought I'd get it looking a little bit more flush, but actually I didn't do that as well as I was happy. So I just ladder stitch close that by hand. It's not great. There's a few tiny little puckers, but it's not too bad. I could put a little bit of braid or a patch or something on it, but I'm happy with it the way it is. It's fine. So then I just took a little safety pin and a tassel that I'd had. You get, I don't know, 10 of them for €1.50 or something in my little bead box. And I had these little leaf charms and a little butterfly bead that's moving around on the sides. They're not glued in, they're just plunked on the little safety pin. It's one of those wee round loopy ones. I think it came off clothing actually. And I just, like everything else, kept it. And then some of these little leaf charms that I got. They're tiny, they're really minuscule. But the part that I'm the happiest with this is actually the piecing. Because I was in the mood, I think it was the week of St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, I was in the mood to see how my quilting skills had been, because I hadn't, or was I getting rusty with piecing, joining the patchwork together. And I wanted to make sure, because like practice makes perfect, as they say, I wanted to make sure that I could still get my spot on 1/4 inch seam, spot on 1/8 of an inch seam, by running it through the machine. And so I decided to challenge myself, and I cut out 1 inch squares out of the little leader and enders, which are little bits of fabric scraps that you put through your machine first. It helps when you're about to start piecing properly. Some call them donkeys, but I call them leaders and enders, and so that your machine starts sewing on this scrap, and then you move on to the piece you want to sew, and rather than end your threads on the sewn piece, you leave a bit of a gap and you sew onto another little tiny scrap. So it's a great way for using up any tiny little pieces of fabric that you've got left over when you're quilting or making anything. And so I have a little tub of those that I always keep because I use them all the time for everything. And you can cut them out and make squares as you're going along, etc. But I haven't got the patience for that. So I was just playing literally down in my sewing room, and I decided to pull out these tiny little scraps, and I cut them into 1 inch squares. Now there are different ways you can do it patchwork. You can do what they call, for really small details, small scale patchwork piecing. Generally people will use what they call foundation paper, is where you'd have a bigger piece of fabric, you sew it onto the foundation, which is a paper, and they're all lines and all printed on the paper, and then you fold it back a certain way, and you stitch and you trim off, and then you match up. But there's a whole, you can look on them on YouTube as well, foundation paper piecing. So most people for small things will do that, but I wanted to challenge to see if my piecing skills were is good. So I cut out individual inch square or inch size squares, which are, they're about the size of your first joint in your finger. They're an inch. And then when you stitch all the way around, they go down to that size. So I literally joined, I didn't do it in a strip method to any of you quilters out there. I literally joined, ran 2 squares together randomly, and I was trying to come up with a pattern, and in the end I decided, because random's quite hard to do actually. Your brain wants to place and put things in position. So I just randomly took the 1-inch little squares that I'd pulled out in different colors out of the little tub of leaders and enders. And I'd cut them all down to 1 inch, and I just sewed them together. And then, so I joined 2 together, and I chain pieced along, snipped them all apart, and then just nested the seams, as they call. So you've got a seam going one way, a seam going the other way, generally towards the darker. Nested them up and turned them into little 4s. And then just grab them randomly and sew them together. But I am really, really pleased because, yes, I haven't lost my skills for like matching up. The points pretty much meet. I would be quite happy with that in a quilt, considering the pieces were so, so tiny and you're putting them through a sewing machine. So I was delighted with that. And then it was before I had made this. And then I realized, or FFO'd it, I should say. Excuse me. Then I realized, oh, actually the colors go really well. I'd made 3 of these little strips. The colors go really well with this. And then I thought, oh, I'll pull some of the blue then just to have a bit of a contrast with it, and it's a summery blue. So yeah, and then I ended up making this into this little pillow, and then that was just a little detail. I could have added pom-pom trim around this one and everything else, but for some reason I just like the simplicity of it, and I thought the patchwork piecing was enough, and it was nice and plump and cute. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with that. But yeah, it's just a little sweet pillow. I mean, people make amazing finishes on stuff. These by no means are exceptional, but I'm delighted about them. So that's good. And then the 4th little one that I did is, I'll just pull this out of my little Easter basket. I picked this little basket up at Woolworths, and I just thought it was so cute. I might put a bit of oil, wood oil on the handle and darken it down, and they're just little plastic eggs, but it's just Easter. It's only an Easter display. I did this. So this is, it's a pattern out of an old German magazine, and this was done as a tablecloth, placemats donkeys ago, and they were in my stash, and I wasn't using them as a placemat. So I decided, let's chop it up and make it into a little pillow. And I had bought some pom-pom trim from Natasha Makes, actually. It's lovely pom-pom trim. But I'd never actually sewn pom-pom trim into a little cushion. I've used pom-pom trim on lampshades and on scarves, etc., but I'd never done it into a little cushion. Now I know the pom-pom trim that Lady Goose, I think her name is, sells in her store. The pom-poms are closer together. They're about the same size, but they're attached onto the tape. And you can pull the threads out so it comes off the tape, and then stitch it around the edges, which makes it a little bit easier, rather than have to stitch it between the seams of the little pillow where you'd hide the tape inside. I mean, you could always just stitch it down and have the tape showing. I don't personally see why that doesn't look pretty. I think it looks pretty too, even if you had tape showing. Both are nice. But as I was in a mood to kind of challenge myself again, I mean, where do I get these notions from? I decided to try to do it with hiding the pom-pom trim. Now this pom-pom trim looks like this, so you can see what I was talking about, how it's different to the Lady Goose one. It's They're all on little stems. Oh, the sun's coming in now. It's, what time is it? 4:30 over here in Berlin, Germany. It's attached. You can't take these off. So that's the trim. So you need to try to, I wanted to try to sew the tape part in that it was hidden. And yeah, I'm really chuffed. It came out really well. You can't see it. It was fun because you had them all tucked inside actually, and when you're sewing right sides together, you're tucking them inside. So I was there with a little stiletto trying to poke them out of the way as the pressure foot of the sewing machine was going along. It probably would have been easier to do it by hand, but so I'm quite pleased. And then I had to take off 1 or 2 wee pom-poms in the corners because they were getting in the way, but it's matched up quite well. And then I had these little pins that have got a leaf on the top, and I just put a little flower bead on them and just glued them on. So they're just little decorative pins. They pulled the colors. And this pattern was, I think initially it must have been in some German magazine, because I got the placemats over here. I didn't stitch this. I didn't design this. It was a placemat, but I thought it was, I just thought it was really cute. And rather than them sitting in a cupboard, not getting used, because I don't really want to put anything on stitching and actually use it that way. If I spill coffee or something on it, then I'd be like I know you should just use them, but yeah, I'm a bit precious with them. So I thought I'd just turn it into a little cushion. So it's a little fat one. And I just put threads on the back. I just put batik on the back. So yeah, and it's just polyfill filled as well. And yeah, so quite cute. So that's, and I've just stuck it in there for a moment. It'll find a better home. No doubt. Let's go back in there. Back over there. So that's that. So I'll do that again. But so that's those little finishes. So that's where I am at the moment. Oh yes, actually, when you're doing some of, for example, the seam on this, or you're doing a plique, not so much with the wool because you could stitch it in, but a plique in quilting, where you're putting a fabric shape, turning the sides, the seams in on top of another piece, and then stitching around with a whip stitch, a ladder stitch, an invisible stitch, depending on what you stitch, and you're doing it by hand. I have tried, because I've done an awful lot of applique, especially on one particular quilt, by hand, and I found, and I use them also for doing binding when I do binding on a quilt, which is the bit that wraps over along the edges, to protect the quilt from the raw edges being exposed. I've tried over the years lots and lots of different kinds of needles for applique, because I find, yeah, you need to find, a bit like cross-stitch needles, you need to find what you like, though I tend to be less fussy with the cross-stitch needles. But my favorite needles are these for applique, and I would highly recommend them. They're not very expensive, they're not really cheap either, but they're beautiful, beautiful needles. I also have the Milner's needles, and these are tulip applique needles. Now I think Liz on Country Stitches actually probably, I think somewhere in the last 100 videos or whatever, they talked about them, I think, as well at some point, because I vaguely remember going, oh my gosh, I love those as well. But they're these needles, and these are the Big Eye number 10 that I personally like by Tulip. And I'm not endorsed by Tulip, I'm just passing on my knowledge. And they come in a little test tube like that. For some reason she's focused. Maybe if I put the piece of cardboard behind it, will it focus a little bit better? Oh, okay. With a little cork stopper on the top. Yeah. And they are super, super sharp. Now I'll just pull out one to show you. To the point that I would definitely recommend you put a finger guard on, or a thimble, even if you're not used or don't particularly like wearing thimbles. In this case, I would definitely recommend, because they will go straight through your finger if you put pressure on them at all, if there's any difficulty in a seam. Now, okay, this little one, oh, you probably won't be able to see the detail, but trust me, these are the finest, sharpest, and that's the big eye needle. This one's a little bit bent, you can see, because I tend to bend them. They'll bend. Whoops. It doesn't even show up on the camera. Where am I? Over here. No, that's okay. It's actually got a bend on it where my fingers bend, but there's where my fingers are bent the needles. They are so sharp. They're unbelievable, and they're so thin, and they're about that size. Oops, I seem to be going off camera. Yeah, so they're not very long, but they're not very tiny either. They're not as small as in-betweens. And they are absolutely beautiful, and they last a long time. They will discolor a little bit with your fingers in the and using them. They go a little, but they don't. It doesn't rub off on your fabric, and I would highly recommend them. They're fabulous. So that's just one of my favorite plique needles. So where are we next? That's FFOs, I think. Yes. Stitchy Kindness. I'm delighted with this actually, because I got 2 pieces of Stitchy Kindness. The first one I'm going to show you was I won a giveaway. Now I've got a chair with a pile of stuff on it here, so if it all comes down in an almighty crash, please bear with me. And the sun is going down, so the lighting's going to go a bit funny too, but hey ho. This is, I won a Stitchy giveaway, and to one of my favorite floss tubing couples, you could say, 2 sisters, stitching with the Sisterlies, Cheryl and Colleen. And on one of their videos, I put in a comment, and I won this little goodie bag, and I was delighted. And Colleen contacted me and said, would you rather not have a gift voucher, because you live in Germany and it'll take forever for the post to come? And I was like, no, please, I'd much rather have the goodies, because it's always lovely to get things from America that you can't easily get here. So I won, I love the sticky note, send to expanding stitches. I won, and I got I got these this week. I was delighted. So I got, I think they came from the Fat Quarter shop actually, to Colleen and Cheryl. I'm not sure. I think maybe they did. If not, it doesn't matter. Or sorry if I got it wrong. Go and watch the videos back. You can find out. They're fun to watch anyway. But I got this, which is a very coriander Christmas by Corey Yoder, and it's quilting, and it's a quilt pattern book, and it's a lovely book. There's it's a monthly calendar block of the month quilt, so there are 12 blocks in there, and of course they use the different fabrics. They're generally motor fabrics. They're really lovely, and you can do the different blocks. I won't show you the blocks as such. I'll just let me see if there's a better picture of the quilts at the end. Not really, but you can see that some of the idea of the colors. It'll be lovely when it's done, if you go with that colorway. But any kind of colorway would, oh wait a minute, what's this one? No, that's a little bonus chart. But I was delighted, but it will be beautiful. Look at that, that's lovely. So that's a really nice a really nice gift and Stitchy kindness. And the second thing was this wee tote bag, which is the Bonnie and Camilla Quilt Bee tote bag, which goes with a book that's separate. And it's a lovely little tote bag. It's beautiful quality, actually. And that's it there. I'll just move it up. And it's a canvas fabric. The little stars on it. And it's lovely. And inside, it's just your simple little canvas green little tote bag. And it's got a little inside pocket as well. So yeah, I was so thrilled. I was so excited to have won a giveaway. But I was really delighted, and it was like Christmas, and a very coriander Christmas. It was like Christmas opening it up. So excited. And the second little bundle of Stitchy kindness actually comes from my friend Karen in the UK, and she's a dear lady, and she had posted on Facebook that if anyone was interested in having this piece, she'd send it to them. And I replied, because I actually fell in love with it. Normally I would leave it and, you know, let somebody else have the joy. But I actually loved the picture because I love Asian items, and I love everywhere in the Pacific. And I've spent a lot of time in Asia. I've been to Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Thailand. I've traveled all the way through to up the Mekong, etc. Lots of pieces and treasures from there as well. And but my haul is mainly Asian. I have an old antique Asian sideboard cupboard. It's about 2 meters long in the hall, and a gong on the wall, and Asian statues, and my Buddha, and I have a lot of Asian pieces in my haul. And she saw this and said she didn't know where she had got it, and it was done in wool, and it would probably need a wash and everything else, and did anybody want it, she'd send it to them, because it wasn't her style. And I could see I could see it working, and I loved the colors, and I went, oh, I'd love it, but she wouldn't accept me to take pay for the postage, so I'm going to send her a wee goodie bag of little bits and pieces. But it was a tapestry kit in wool, and it was a kit made by Coats, initially Coats Steiner SAS, and it's called Fujiyama. And we don't know who stitched it, as far as Karen mentioned. And I need to wash it and block it, because it's stitched in 10 stitch with wool. That's the back. Very vibrant and thick, chunky. I mean, it's really grubby as well, but that's fine. I don't mind that. On the, the normal tapestry canvas by Spygart initially with the yellow, you'd think. So it's a little bit skew width, because of the 10 stitches obviously shifted it. But isn't that pretty? I loved the colors because they're bright, but they just work gorgeously. And my mum loves swans. So when I saw the 2 swans, it reminded me of Galway at the Claddagh, and there's hundreds of swans that come in there every year in the old part of Galway city where I'm from in Ireland. And all the swans come in there, and it reminded me of that, except obviously somewhere in Asia. But when I hand wash it, and then I'll block it on my design board, to kind of get it into a straighter shape, and I can probably stretch it some, lace it to get it a bit straighter as well. I'll give it a go, and I'll put it in a frame. But isn't that pretty? So that, you could really call that a vintage treasure as well in my vintage treasure section. But I was delighted, and that's Stitchy kindness, and it was much bigger than I thought. I thought it was only going to be a little small piece, but I think it's beautiful. So thank you so much, Karen dear. It's I know you do watch here as well. It's really lovely of you. Thank you so much. And to Colleen and Cheryl for posting over my little goodie bag. Thank you so much. I have to send them a card. So that's Stitchy Kindness. Okay. Oh yes. Stitchy Kindness could also include 2 new samplers. Well, 1 new sampler and another little gift that I got for Easter from my friend Andy. He's done it again, and he picked up a vintage sampler. But I'm not going to show that today. I'm going to keep that for another video, because I also have received an item I purchased, which is another antique sampler to show you. But I'm trying to get 1 sampler charted first. So as fast as I can get that sampler charted and try to find out a bit of research, but at least get it charted and out there for you to enjoy stitching, I will do before I show those. So the next little bit, haul, I think. Okay, now my haul is, I haven't bought any, I'm looking down at the chair where the haul is. I haven't bought any charts just yet. I'm trying to be good. And I'm also looking through all the ones for the Needlework Expo, and I'm putting together that were designed for the Needlework Expo, and I've got a list of some that I really do like, and yeah, I'll go purchasing some of those. And I also want to purchase some silks. So I'm trying to decide between NPI silks or classic colorwork silks. So I'll get a range of colors and give them a go, or I might get a little bit of everything, or gentle arts, or all the usual ones. I might just try out a couple of different ones. But I did get this, which is on the secondary market, and I'd got actually bought it. Well, I hadn't bought it. She had kept it from me from ages ago, and in the end I was saying, I need to pay you for this and send it off to me. It's an old one, 1999, and it's Kathy Barrick, and it's Christmas sampler. It's a photograph. Isn't that really pretty? I thought that was really cute, and it would look lovely. I don't know what it is with me loving Christmas stuff. Between Christmas and Halloween, I'm weak. I think it's beautiful. So I thought that was really sweet. So I picked that up. And that's all the charts that I picked up at the moment. The rest of it has really been little finishing items and handy little gadgets and a few bits and bobs. I was watching Sambury Stitches. I'm subscribed to her. And she's been putting up some of these FlossTube videos all about Rae Dunn. Now, I know Priscilla and Chelsea are Rae Dunn fanatics, and I get it. You like it. Some of their pieces are really cute. I dare not start collecting, the normal mugs and jugs and everything else. Some of the unique pieces I probably would like, though, but I haven't seen any over here at all, and I'm not going ordering them online for fear they'll get broken and in transit or whatever. Just yet. You never know. Saying that, you never know. But I popped in to TK Maxx this week, and it was really because I was trying to help out a friend. He was hunting for an Easter egg, basically, and I was in town and I had to go to the bank. I was at the post office. And I said, oh, I'll take a look for you, because TK Maxx sometimes have around Easter the English chocolate eggs, the big ones, whereas in Germany you get some chocolate eggs, the big hard shell ones that are hollow that you break apart and they're delicious. There's a Lindt chocolate egg they do now, but they don't tend to, they do a lot of chocolate bunnies and things like that. So the big eggs that you've chocolates inside and everything is definitely an Irish, UK, American, Canadian, it's a lot more inclined that way. And I said, I'll take a look, but I didn't realize that the law had just changed, that over here now, to go into a non-food related shop, okay, you can go into a drugstore which sells shampoos, non-medication, and that's fine. But to go into I think that's fine, to go into a retail shop, you have to book an appointment. though if they're quiet, they will make you an appointment and let you go in there. But you have to have had a COVID test that's valid within 24 hours. So one that you got done 2 weeks ago, like I did, just because I wanted to go to the dentist, go to different things, that doesn't work. So you have to get it within 24-hour ones. And they've set up with different chemists here, tents outside where you can go and get tested for free. But of course, the queues are absolutely gigantic, and sometimes you need an appointment to get the free COVID test. And I think it's going to be absolute manic, because if people are going to be, needing the test, it's definitely going to stop people shopping, which is probably a good thing, because the numbers over here are through the roof. They're higher than they've ever been. They're last year at its peak. It's because of the mutated one, or the 5th mutation or 4th mutation, whatever it is. So shopping isn't what you would want to be doing anyway, but I had to go to the post office and I had to go to the bank, and I thought, okay. And then got to the door at TK Maxx, and of course the nice chap at the door said, do you have a test? And I said, well, I don't have it with me, but I've got one from 2 weeks ago. I have a picture on my phone. And he went, no, it's got to be within 24 hours. And I was like, wow, okay. And then I thought, well, I'm not going to do that. And then I thought, well, I'm already in town, and if I hop on the bus and go to another spot, another chemist that's not in the center of where this area that I shop in is, I wonder would the queue be less there, because there must have been 50 people in the queue nearby where the TK Maxx was for the chemist there. So I hopped on the bus, went up to this place, and I was delighted. I stopped off the bus and I was second in the queue, and I was like, woohoo, wicked. Until I got to the chap, and he goes, have you got an appointment? And I went, no. And he goes, you need one, because we need all your data that we can send you the results per email within half an hour as they process through the results. So I popped into the chemist, and the lovely lady there, I said, look, it's dead quiet outside, and I was the second in the queue. There's nobody there. And she said, well, there's people coming in about 10 minutes. She goes, I'll slot you in. So she took all my details, and I was able to pop her outside again, go into the tent, and the guy saw me, and we did the COVID test, and then I had half an hour to kill. And I thought, well, rather than go home, I'll wait around. And so I went and grabbed a takeaway kebab and munched that, and I'll wait for the results to come through, because the bus could go, I'd get the bus back into the shopping area, would save me going in a big loop. So I did that, and I went back to TK Maxx. No eggs. They were all sold out before. The people must have realized that they were going to do this within 24 hours, because apparently at the beginning of the week it was chaos with people at shops and all the rest of it, and I wouldn't have wanted to be there anyway if there were lots of people. So I went back to TK Maxx then, and the chap on the door saw me, and he goes, wow, that was fast. And I showed him the results of the test on my phone, and he let me in, and we filled out a appointment, and he was ever so nice and let me in. So I wandered quite happily around TK Maxx for quite a while. I think there were 3 of us in this massive store. And the reason I'm telling this story is because I was taking a look out, thinking of Sambury stitches and thinking of, people that like Rae Dunn. And I thought, well, I could maybe pick up one little piece if I saw a piece of Rae Dunn. And no, not a pot, nor a cup, nor a bowl inside. But in the middle of the book section, there was a Rae Dunn planner. So it's, which probably suits my needs more at the moment. So it's just a wee calendar for 2021, and it was reduced to 50 cents. So I was delighted. So I grabbed that, and I thought, right, okay, I'm joining the trend. I've got something in Rae Dunn. So that was that little bit. And then I realized, because I do some stitching in bed at night before I go to sleep, and I have a Lowry stand up beside my bed, and I generally have this Birdsong one on it. And I have my flosses and everything, and literally they've been sitting on a little design board at the moment, kind of like a Bitsy Bob type thing, except mine's just a flat one. And I wanted somewhere that I could just pick up a little tray or something just to keep all the floss and the skeins in if I haven't got them on thread drops or whatever, because these are the anchor ones and I haven't got the anchors hanging on the binder rings yet. They're all just stuffed in a bag. So I picked up this little tray, and it's a cutlery tray. I realized afterwards, I think it was €7 or something, but it's sturdy, and it'll just sit beside me on the bed, and I can throw all my bits and pieces in there and throw the chart or the copy, my working copy, on the chart, and it's all in one spot, and even just put the Q snap on there if I moved on to something else. So that was really handy for me. So that was that little bit. All right, I'll just put this back here. I picked up this little, I picked this up in Woolworths, I think. It's just a little great crate. But I thought it was kind of cute. It was only €3. Oh, actually, I think I picked that up in a drugstore. I did. I picked that up in a shampoo drugstore place. So you could kind of like, you know, put stuffing in it and prop it up and then just have little bits and pieces in it, or other, you know, other bits and bobs. It'll be useful for something, but I didn't have a little crate and I thought that was cute. And yeah, these were in, yeah, some of this, so that's in a drugstore. I got that one. This I got in the little drugstore as well, which was a bit dearer actually, $3.45. It's a little tray, Home Sweet Home, and I'd cover this with a chart, but I thought it would be really cute for finishing, and I liked that particular grey, so it's just a little tray. This I was really pleased I spotted in Woolworths. Now I bought this about 2 months ago and completely forgot about it, and I need to put some more chalk back on it to get the lines because I put oil on it. But this I just loved. I'd love to get a real antique one. But this was in Woolworths, and it was the only one. If they'd had more of them, I would have been delighted. It's an old slate, like the slate style. It's a bit smudged up here because it was that really pale wood, like this color. And I put some wood oil on it, just to darken it down. I've got my foot sitting on a turned over bin just to keep me steady in this chair. It's just moved. So it's just, but I think it'll be lovely to put a little finished piece on, or two little finished pieces and have some of the slate coming through. But isn't that cute? I thought it was lovely. So that's that little piece there. These aren't stitching, but they're just handy little finishing. This little tray thing was also in, it's actually a tray for candles. With a pale wood. I haven't stained this yet or even painted. I'll probably just stain it. It's soft wood. It dents really easily, but it's just a little tray, and it was only €3.50, and that was in the drugstore as well, so it's not very large. It's only about that size, but you could do a lot with that. You could put a lovely little, like a skinny row in there, and I have, funny enough, but I don't think I'd have to do it maybe on 40 count if it to show it in, that hang it that way maybe. So that's that. And then my last little haul was from TK Maxx, and the same day that I got the Ray Dunn planner. And I just thought this was gorgeous, and it was the only one that had the scissor with it. And it's actually for gardening. It's kind of like a cast iron, you know, there's scrap metal that they make into China, and it's a twine roller and the little, you know, rough scissors. The scissors isn't the sharpest, it's okay, just about cut twine, and with the little stand and that, and the little birdie on top. Ignore the bow, I just put that on top for Easter. But I was thinking this comes off, and I'll either leave the twine on for a while, but I've also got rolls of lace that I've wound around core from other twine. Or I've got some of my long arm threads on a big cone that's that size, the king cones, and one of those would look really pretty on it as well. but I just thought that was like adorable, you know, with the little birdie, and he's just so cute. So that was a teacup. I'm not sure what price that one is. I think it was 12 euros. I think I paid for that one. But I really did love it, and it was the only one there that was that had the little scissors. There was one more, but it didn't have the scissors hanging on it, and I thought the scissors added to it. So that is haul. I think I'm just taking a look here. Haul was frames ready. Yep, exactly. Oh yeah, I'll show you some charts that I pulled out that I thought were quite Easter related, that you might enjoy seeing. This one everyone will know, I know, but I think it'll be lovely. It's a question. It might be one of the ones that I start, because I think the words would go quite quickly, and I like the colors. And that's Little House Needleworks Spring ABCs. I've taken it out of the plastic. It is an original one. I just took it out of the plastic now. Designed by Diane Williams, copyright 2018. And I'll just zoom it in so you can see it a little bit. Isn't that cute? And I think Nisi Lynn has done summer. I think it's the summer one she's done, or the spring. She's done one of them. And I know other people have stitched them. They're really popular. I don't think I've got the summer or the other ones from the Little House Needleworks. But I think this one's nice, and I should really do it so that I've got something else for spring. This is an old one. I think I bought this on Facebook or on eBay. I can't remember. A long time ago. And I can't remember what year it is. And I'm not even sure what year this is. Let me just take a look. There's not even a copyright on it, I don't think. Oh, 2006. And it's very hard to see the chart, and I haven't stitched it up yet. But it's Bunny Eggs by Praiseworthy Stitches. I'll go in close. That's not too bad, you see them pretty well. But isn't that lovely? The little eggs and the little swans. It's actually showing better than it looks in real life. It's very faded out. The lighting's come out quite well. Yeah, it's so faded here you can barely see anything, but that's good. That you can see it, but I think that's lovely. Sort of spring Easter little charts. And this one I was rummaging through today to just pull out a couple, and this one just spoke to me, and I haven't stitched this yet either. I've just taken it out of the bag. But it's sweet, and lots of people stitched this I think last year as well, and it's Brenda Gervais, here a peep, there a peep. And it's a wee cutie. Isn't that lovely? Big mama chick and the little one sitting up on the nest on the little vine. I think that's lovely. So cute. You can see the light, but I didn't notice it actually till later, but the actual little chick is in a little nest, I think. There. And I think that's lovely. So yeah, just to show you a couple of charts. Some of you might have seen them, other ones maybe not, but I think generally Brenda Gervais and Little House Needleworks, everyone will have seen those. But hey ho. So where am I now? Making my notes again. That's the haul. That's that. Yeah, pin stitch midnight Nicole Parkman. Oh yeah. FlossTubers I've been watching. Valerie stitching in the barn. I watched her. Lovely to see a new video of hers up again. So I'll try and link them in the description box below, anyone I mention during the course of this video. Check out Stitching with the Sisterlies. Country Stitchers, Deb and Liz have got another video up, and I just watched this morning Deb's spring home tour around her cabin. Oh, it's amazing. She is so gifted. It's absolutely beautiful. The way she's got her cross stitch laid out, and all her treasures all over her house. She is so incredibly skilled in interior design. So beautiful, great work, Deb. But I found somebody new that everyone is mentioning, and I'll put a link to her down below as well. She seems a really nice lady. I haven't watched her FlossTube 2 that's just come up. I just watched FlossTube #1, and that's Emma Xstitching, and she's in the UK, and she seems a really lovely lady, and so go and check her out and give her a little bit of love as well. So that is that. Where are we? Okay, couple of little comments, and then I'll move on to vintage treasures, and then I'll show you the quilts at the end, and then I think that's us. So comments from St. Patrick's Day video. I just wanted to call out a few comments. Blenda from Guatemala was delighted I'd called her out in the last video. I'm sure your hospitality at your Guatemalans are famous of. Yes, I hope to one day visit you. Shirley Cox, thank you for your lovely comment that you don't mind the waffle, and wishing me all happy St. Patrick's Day. I won't read out every comment, and I didn't get typing back. I meant to, and then I forgot about it, and I didn't get, and I don't watch myself back except for once to make sure the video's okay. Yeah, so I didn't get replying to each one individually, but I did put a heart, and I read all of them, and thank you so much for your lovely comments. I really appreciate them, and please do like and subscribe. It really does help me, and I'm at 712 at the moment. I really love to get to the 1,000 so that I can do a big giveaway, and it would be just fabulous. Carol I won't say the surname. Carol, I love your video and all your discussion. Love Lucky Days, is beautiful, and she likes the finish. Sandy, oh yeah, with the hat. Oh, that's true. I was thinking this morning, actually, that's just reminded me. Oh, typical the way mine works. I was thinking this morning, or yesterday, I really should wear an Easter bonnet, like you do. And I was thinking, what do I have that I could use as an Easter bonnet? And of course, all my bonnets and hats and fancy hats for weddings or whatever, they're not here, they're in Ireland. And I thought, what hat do I have? And the only hat that came to mind is my cowboy hat. I have a white Stetson cowboy hat downstairs that I bought at the Calgary Stampede. I've been to Calgary many times, and to British Columbia, and to Calgary, Banff, Jasper, a lot of Vancouver. I've spent a lot of time wandering around Canada, and I thought, well, I can't go put daffodils or something on a cowboy hat. It'd be sacrilegious. So I thought, no, leave the hat, Martina. You don't need the props. But yeah, just for the fun of it. But yeah, that just made me laugh. So yeah, thank you. Jan is happy with me waffling away. Kay likes October 31st. She leave off the additional bow. I'm thinking actually with that from the last video, I'll show that October 31st finish again in October when we're around Halloween. But I think actually the easiest solution is to just put the little bow on a little magnet, because the frame is magnetic, and then I can stick it on for a day or two, take it off for a day or two, and I've got the options of both. Oh yeah, and they're laughing about me with accents and picking up accents and losing them again. And yeah, the Irish one seems to have eased off a bit. It must be because Paddy's Day is over. Marcy McGuire, I was in stitches laughing at her. She said send the loveliest comments. Thank you so much. Really, really nice. Helen, just thank you for your lovely comments. Lovely sewing things. Carol, thank you so much. Just saying they love watching the little treasures, and happy stitching voice, and just people are so kind. Yeah, Long Dog Stitcher, thank you. Sally, thank you. Yes, she's right. Glue instead of sticky tape. Agree. Pin Stitch, Elizabeth, Auntie Elizabeth Krangle is her YouTube name. She asked about Pin Stitch. Check out Nicola Parkman's Pin Stitch, Elizabeth. Or if you want me to show you my version, leave a comment below, and I'll pop up a little tutorial, and maybe how I do the little cross stitch the X's on the button in an easy way as well. Bonita, oh yeah, she was talking about her, where I'd shown the Singer little machine, the children's one. She is a featherweight. And yes, the featherweight doctor, I watched a couple of those videos. Beautiful. What else did she say? It's this lovely comment. Some more comments. Carol, Patchy Pony. There was something somebody mentioned on one of the comments, I can't remember, about, oh, a son-in-law or a brother. I can't see it here actually. A brother, and somebody made a comment that some family member said, wow, there's a lot of stuff here. Yes, there is, but this is my little gathering nooks and crannies along the mezzanine of all Stitchy stuff that won't fit in the long arm and sewing room, because I haven't got shelves that high in there. So all the little nooks and treasures and things tend to get scattered on shelves here. Although there are some other baskets and everything else and carvings downstairs in the living room. But yeah, there is quite a lot of little bits and pieces, but I do rotate them out. So I've just emptied out a trunk downstairs, and I can rotate out little bits and pieces. So that's quite cute. So that was some of the comments. So thank you so much for your lovely comments. I really enjoy reading them, and thank you for your support and in subscribing. And as I said, I'm not planning on putting ads up right now, and whatever new video, I wouldn't put ads up on them. I put it on the old ones. So you shouldn't have any interruptions watching these, fingers crossed. It uploads okay. So vintage treasures, yes, I'll show you this one. I got this the week, or I think it was the week before St. Patrick's Day, but I didn't want to show it to you then. I wanted to talk about the other treasures, but this is because I wanted to clean it. So that, you know, I've sort of got a policy. If I get anything secondhand, apart from samplers or something like that, that's cloth, I'm very careful with. But furniture wise, or little dishes or anything like that, I want to wash them so that I know that it's my dust that goes in them and not somebody else's. Not that I mind, but it's just nice to give them a bit of a clean, especially because things have been sitting in garages and stuff. If they're in people's homes and they love them as well, then yeah, I'm not worried about it. But when things are really dusty, then I'll give them a wee bit of a wipe through and a clean. So this I thought was really, really unusual, and it's another sewing box. Now I have a few of the standard shape ones over there, and other little ones. I showed the little round one that was the cane in another video, but this one is actually from the DDR times, apparently, when I bought it. That's the information that was on it. It was vintage DDR, which is the east part of Germany, the old east before the wall came down. I loved the shape of it. It's just really unusual with that handle, and it's got 4 little legs on it. So I gave it a clean, and I put furniture oil, that I've got this solution, and it's a cleaner and an oil in one, and then I put another little bit of the oil over the top, and it just cleaned up any of the normal grime that wood gathers, and it just cleaned it up a bit without stripping it back too much. And these handles on the top are Bakelite. They're the original ones, and then you've got the old studs in here, the hinges, and it opens up. I'll pull out the box. This one's a little bit wobbly now, so I'll try and keep it up so you can see it. That one gets a little bit wobbly further out, but it won't fall off. It opens up. I should hold it by the handle, but I want to tip it to show you. And this opens up, so you've got your little storage area in there, and it swings closed. So it just swings around like that. And I have one of the other accordion style ones in a lovely dark brown over there. I'll show you at another point. And then this little one lifts up. Let me hold the handle. Ooh, she wants to move. Okay, I'll just do it like this and take it out. There's a little insert tray here, and I'll probably just put some little squares of fabric in the tray of that, and then it sits in this little case there, so that drops down. The other one doesn't have the little rests, so it was never meant to have one. The hinges are a little bit wobbly, but yeah, I'll pop some little squares of fabric or velvet or velour in there. But I just loved it. It's the little legs are just adorable, so it came up so well. It's not antique, it's vintage, though at some point it will be antique. But I just loved the shape. It's really, really unusual, and it's really handy for carrying around as well. You know, it's actually really quite strong. So yeah, that's one of my latest vintage treasures that I really like. Now I have lots and lots of, they're sort of more physical items. I do have lots and lots of needlework yet to show you in tapestries and things. But because I got it recently, I thought, oh, I'll show it to you. Excuse me. That's the hay fever. I'm drugged up on antihistamines trying to stop the sniffles. So that's that. Right, so this is the next part, the last little piece of this video is all about quilting. I'll show you some of my quilts that I long armed this week. They're not, I didn't piece them, but I'll talk about them now. And then that'll be it for today. So okay, so the first thing I did was make some binding for this next quilt I'm going to show you, and I kind of got carried away. Now binding is the bit that goes, so you're on this one here, it goes around the edges there. You put it at the edge of the quilt to protect the edges of the of a quilt. And you can for show quilts for like Houston or the Festival of Quilts in the UK, or any of our sisters, any of the quilts, generally traditionally people would machine sew on one side and then wrap around and hand sew, which is why I love my needles, hand sew the binding down. Now in these two cases, and I usually do that, but in these two cases, as I've got so many quilts to quilt, I thought I'd machine quilt them. They're not, I'm learning, they're not perfect. They're pretty good, but they're not absolutely perfect with the machine quilting. And I think I've got to reduce the size of my binding even more so that they match up perfectly, because the standard 2.5 is definitely too wide for me anyway for binding strips. I'm normally 2.25, so, or 2.25, 2.125 really. But yes, I've learned with that one. But I was making some binding strips for this quilt using some of the fabric I'd used on the back. And this bit's not pieced, I'll talk about it in a second. And I got carried away because I had ripped the fabric to get it straight and then cut the strips all out and was joining them together on the diagonal. These were all sort of quilting terms now we talk about, but it's basically the strips. And I ended up making a roll. I've just rolled it into this and popped a pin in it for now, but I ended up making 29 meters of binding. It was pulled everywhere. I took a picture and posted it on Instagram and on Facebook, and yeah, I got kind of carried away, but at least now I've got there. It's great patriotic colors for Americans as well, this one, with it, because it's white and navy, but it's also got a little bit of the taupe as well. So that was fun. But the first quilt I'd like to show you is this one. And this is, now the blocks, I have to find out who pieced these blocks, because they're a friend of mine in a group that we have that sent over the blocks for charity quilts and for the bushfires, for use of the bushfires. And I can't for the life of me remember. I need to go back in the photos, and I'd hoped to do it before I did the video today so I could mention it, and I forgot. So apologies for that, but I will edit the video description box in the future and put in your details. And I'll pop that up on Facebook today and see if I can find out who made the blocks. But the quilt, I sent these blocks, so the blocks are like there. That's one block, another block. etc. I sent those over to, yeah, that's not a block. So the blocks were like that side. I had been gifted those over for use for charity or gift quilts, and I sent them off to, I had a box full of blocks that people had sent when we were doing charity quilts, and we were doing gift quilts for some dear people in the UK, Natasha makes, and for her children. And I had a box of leftovers, and I thought, okay, I'll send those out to people, and if they use some of those blocks, the quilt blocks, the quilt squares, and make up a quilt top, then I'll long arm them all for free, and we'll get them shipped off to Australia. This was the beginning of 2020, and then COVID hit. So I sent these blocks over to Tina, and Tina L, I'll say, because I'm not sure. I don't think her surname, the one on Facebook, is the one that she, or I might actually come on, I don't think that's her real name. It's her Facebook name. But I sent them over to her, and she added sashing, and she added the borders on, and she turned it into, now you won't see it because where the camera is, and it's sort of, what a beautiful quilt top it is. Didn't she do a lovely job of that? And she she joined the blocks together, and then she put sashing in between and the navy around the outside, and it's just lovely. And then I put this square fabric on the back because I thought it pulled out the colors. It's just checks, they're not pieced, they're the fabric was like that with the squares all in one, and then I did the binding. But and then I quilted it on my long arm. Standing up, I'll sit down again. I quilted it on my long arm. Now my long arm machine is it's on a big frame. It's a 12-foot professional machine, but it's not with the computer. You're guiding it all yourself, so it's like free motion quilting. So I'm driving every squiggle and every circle. But I used rulers on this one in parts, and I just did a simple pattern, rulers and things with little loops. So it looks quite nice. I wanted something that set off it might be better to give a bit of shading, set off a juxtaposition with the square and the circle. And you can see the lovely, airplanes that are in here, the old biplanes that are in the fabric. So it's quite simple. You can see a little airplane here. Where is it? There you go. That's a little airplane. Look at the little biplane on there. It's lovely. So yeah, so I just did circles around it, but it looks quite cute. I think it turned out quite nice, and the binding turned out nice. So it looks a bit better when you got it further away, perhaps. Yeah, so, and this is the back. And you just see some of the quilting. I'm not sure which angles you can see, but yeah, so that's some of the quilting that you can see in it. So that was that one. So that got done. I finished, I did the long arming and the binding with in the last couple of weeks. Sorry if the camera's getting blocked and things in front of it. It's just quite a small little area here, and yeah, quilts are big. Oops, what have I knocked over? Oh, the tray. Okay, put that down. Okay. Now this quilt is this was made pieced together by Jane Clark, I can say. Well, that was Tina Lawrence. This is Jane Clark, and I asked her actually for when I update my website that she can, because it's not updated yet, because I'm still trying to get some other paperwork sorted out that I'm nearly there now. It's just a case of getting some photographs and figuring out how to do little tabs in the top, etc. And she said, yes, by all means, I can post this as a picture on the website. She quilted this, I think it's with Moda fabric, this log cabin quilt. and it's for our, she's done actually two very similar ones. She sent both of them over, and she sent over the backing fabric, the binding she had already made up, and I just stitched on. She had done all the work, so she had made the binding in a little row like that, pieced it all together, stitched it up. It's the same fabric. And isn't this a beautiful, beautiful quilt top? Now the log cabin is this shape here. It's a variation of a log cabin, that one. But the fabrics are absolutely gorgeous. I'll just try and scroll. I can't do it justice, but she did a beautiful job, and I think it's a gorgeous, anyone would be delighted. It's a lap quilt, this one, so it's not ginormous, but it's so comfy and cozy. I'm sure everyone will love it. So that's the log cabin, and she did a brilliant job of, like, she put a little inner border in, and then she did the bigger border. She just did a fantastic job and squared it up beautifully. Very little trimming to do afterwards. It was so square. And then I wanted to take my time on this and have a bit of fun, so I free motioned quilted it. I'll show you the back. So it's not a computer, and it's not with the lines or with the ruler, but the quilting is just me driving the machine, and it's feathers. So I've done, I can't see now, but I'll just lift it up a bit. No, I can't see what you're seeing, but we'll see how we get on. That's the back with the, okay, you can see a little bit, and then I free motion, or I long arm quilted the rope effect around the side of the border as well. Show it to you on here. Okay, you can see a little bit more of it there, so it's just, but I think it came out lovely because I put the feathers. I think it came out quite nice, and at least I hope it's just, you know, it's okay for her gorgeous quilt. But quilts are definitely harder to maneuver on camera than cross stitch. Yeah, and I did little just little loopities in there to add a little bit of contrast, and then the straight line quilting down, so the feather kind of goes down across the, from the very top down to the bottom and up. But yeah, I think it's a beautiful quilt. Whoops, I'm getting too close to the camera again. I guess see you better. There you go. So that's a little bit about the quilting. So that's Jane Clark's beautiful quilt top. So as I said, I was long arming in the last 2 weeks, and I got those done, and I've done that. And there's another big quilt on the long arm at the moment that's all batiks, which is a beautiful one. It's by Sylvia, who's a German friend actually over here. I don't know her very well, but she's a lovely lady. We met through Facebook. She's a really lovely lady, and she had dropped around the quilt, and that was the beginning, just before lockdown, and because of lockdown we haven't had a chance to really get to know one another really well, but we are friends on Facebook, so that's lovely. So her quilt's on the long arm at the moment, and I'm just taking my time. It's been on there about 4 days, but I'm taking my time to decide what well, I've been doing other little bits and pieces anyway, what pattern to use on that one. I think it's calling for custom again, rather than an edge to edge, which is the same pattern all over. Oh, I think the antihistamines are wearing off. Voice is getting croaky. So yeah, so I think I'll leave it there. That's the end of that's the quilting little bit over. I don't think there is anything else I can think of, or anything else happening at the moment. It's a gorgeous afternoon. Spring is arriving. The squirrels are all out. There's 3 squirrels happily going across from the neighbors now and coming across onto my balcony, and every single plant pot and piece of earth has got walnuts in them, whole walnuts that the neighbors feed them. They're pinching them, coming over, eating a couple, of course, dropping all their shells, which is, I mean, among all the winter dust that's out there at the moment anyway, it's fine. And but they're burying all the walnuts, and they're kicking up all the soil, because I went out the other day and I was wondering, where on earth has all this soil come from, and as it couldn't have come in the wind. And no, I caught one of them through the glass peeking in the window, out the window, the other day, and he was having a great old time digging away and burying his walnuts. So, but they're really, really cute. There's one that's got the most gorgeous long tail. I'm going to try and get a photograph of them. And they're fast, and they're very timid. They're not as timid at with my neighbors. They're used to them, but they've got a feeding station for squirrels through their window, and they're used to the movement inside. Whereas when I'm out in the balcony and they're not used to being that close physically to someone, and they get all skittish. But they're getting a little bit more, brave. They run across the top of the railings and everything, and they're just so cute. But one in particular has got a super long tail and really, really pointy little ears, and they're really tufty. I've nicknamed him Tufty because of the ears. He's just so cute. He's gorgeous. Spring is here, and sunshine, and so as I was saying, I hope you've had a very nice Easter weekend, or a nice break if you don't celebrate Easter. And thank you for joining me today, and please do leave a comment, please do like and subscribe, and you can follow me on Expanding Stitches on Etsy and on Instagram. Please check them both out, and if you hashtag me if you've anything that you think I'd be interested in, and my email details are also down in the video and on my Etsy shop. So thank you very much, and talk to you soon. Keep safe, take care, and wishing you all the best of health. Okay, bye for now. Bye.